All right, welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex podcast on FantasyLabs. This is Brian. It is Tuesday night. We're going over Wednesday's slate. I'm here with Adam Levitan. What's up, man?
Hey, yeah, I'm doing good. My dog got peed on this morning, but besides that, I'm doing well.
Yeah, no, I saw your tweet about that. So what was the final ending of the story there?
I mean, what am I going to do? First of all, I'm a very non-confrontational person in the first place, but
Yeah.
the owner was a 60-year-old female who yelled at her dog. Like, I feel like the dog park is a
So she was apologetic.
yeah, she was apologetic, and it's wildlife. Like you think at the zoo that dogs aren't peeing on each other. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
just
of
the way it
course.
is.
Do they have dogs at the zoo?
No, but they should.
That would
Well,
be such a
we
weird exercise.
domesticated these dogs. If Jerry was out in the wild, she'd be getting peed on all the time. And as I said
It's
before,
just true. Yeah.
maybe she liked it. Who knows? Maybe she's
See,
got some R. Kelly. Who knows?
yeah, you never know. Yeah, who's to say, really?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was an interesting story. But I'm glad that you guys. Looks like Jerry's doing better now. So yeah,
Yeah, she's had a long day.
I hear you. Yeah, so we're gonna run through the slate kind of as quickly as possible. It's a long slate. These are kind of the dog days, but we'll get through it. So we got 12 games. Let's start with Atlanta, Washington. Um, and the line here is 209 is the total. It's currently a pick'em. It started not as a pick'em, but it's actually moved, and there could be some more movement. Not a ton of injuries here. Allen Anderson's day to day, not a super important injury note, but in general, both of these teams are fairly healthy, so not too bad. So, Cash, kind of the chalky guys. Obviously John Wall has been crushing it lately. Paul Millsap, has been struggling a little bit. Horford's been pretty chalky. What stands out to you as kind of the top plays of this game, and maybe in the context of the slate as well?
Yeah, so I talked about, and this is a home and home. These two teams met on Monday night,
Monday, yeah.
and I talked about on that day how the Wizards, who are or were going to that game a game and a half out of the final playoff spot in the East, and in 10th spot in the East, like they are extremely motivated and focused right now. And I think we've seen a playoff rotation from Randy Whitman over the last 5 games. And what I mean by
Mhm.
playoff rotation is like guys' minutes are extended to their max. So we saw Brad Beal play 34 minutes on Monday, John Wall 36, Gortat 30, even though he was banged up, Otto Porter 36, and Markieff Morris, 27. I think even Markieff could play even more. So I
Mhm.
don't think that the salaries for these guys have caught up to this playoff rotation that Whitman is playing. So, I don't have a problem with any really of the Wizards. I really think they're all reasonable plays. I mean, John Wall would
Mhm.
prefer to use at home, and John Wall is doing everything right now. I didn't check Brad Beal's price, but he was certainly underpriced in the last game. I mean, he was priced like a guy who's been hurt and
Was
playing
that
20 something.
5-4? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at 5.4, I would not be surprised at all if Brad Beal ended up in my cash games, even though it's not the best matchup.
Yeah. On the point on the matchup, we have our opponent plus and minus, our true DVP, where we adjust for positions and kind of give a plus minus look at things. So obviously that the red first opponent rank next to John Wall looks like a really bad matchup, but he's actually a fairly positive one. Plus minus adjusting for salary. The Hawks haven't been that great against point guards, so potentially maybe people might be off them. I'm not really sure. I don't think people are necessarily too worried about matchup for John Wall, but I just wanted to note that matchup's not bad. But yeah, I mean, I think on Washington's side, you're right. We like the extended minutes, and they've all been playing well. John Wall's obviously been playing great. Beal looked good, and even Porter looked good. I think that he might be a little overowned. A little points chase. He had to go over 40, so maybe
Mhm.
people are gonna chase that. But yeah, I do think they're on play. Maybe Markeith's kind of a sneaky tournament guy.
Right. I will say Wall is 96 and Chris Paul against the Warriors is 97. So, like,
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about ownership on a slate this big anyways, but
sure.
Wall, is going to be very low owned given, the spot that Paul is in.
Yeah, no, great point. Yeah, so kind of all the starters I think are in play here for sure for Washington. Quickly hit it on Atlanta side. Yeah, Atlanta's always tough. It's kind of Millsap and is usually the guy for me. Horford's been crushing lately. I think he's kind of the guy that you want. His 6'8". We've talked DraftKings centers are down all year. He's been over 45, in 3 of the last 4 or whatever. It's just been great. So I think that he's kind of the guy that you would potentially want here, but maybe limit some exposure in this matchup just because Washington is kind of looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, somebody played in one of my bigger head-to-heads on Monday. Somebody played Al Horford against me, which I thought was pretty far off the board. And then the more I thought about it, Marcin Gortat is a excellent paint defender, but Horford does all his damage in the 15 to 18 foot range, or even out to the 3-point line, really. Anyways, so maybe it's not as bad a matchup for Horford as I thought. So I thought that was maybe an interesting play and a sharper play than I gave it credit for.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the guys you could definitely look at are, obviously Millsap and Horford. Any interest in kind of the guards T? He had a good game on Monday against Washington, but not super interested. I don't think anyone outside of Millsap and Horford for me.
Yeah, I think on
slate.
On smaller slates, I think Teague is interesting because nobody wants to play him, but he's a guy that can earn more minutes with his play. So that always intrigues me. But on a slate this big, I doubt I'll end up on Teague really anywhere.
I hear you. Cool. So let's keep on moving. Next game we'll hit on is going to be Milwaukee at Cleveland. Total here is 206.5. Cleveland is 11-point favorites. No news here. Kevin Love is going to be back for this game, so we'll see teams both, relatively healthy. Obviously, Milwaukee isn't healthy as compared to how they were at the beginning of the year, but no recent kind of news. So I think really particularly interesting here is small forward. Giannis is more expensive than LeBron. He's 9.5 on DK. LeBron's 9.4. I think we all thought that Giannis potentially had an incredible ceiling, but maybe not this quick. 9.5 ahead of LeBron. How do you approach this? These two guys are kind of the premier small forward options right now, but it's kind of weird to see him above LeBron.
Oh, yeah, and ever since Giannis got to 10K, I haven't been playing him, and part of it's been due to matchups lately. He had to play the Grizzlies, then he played the Jazz, then he played the Pistons, and all 3 of those teams I don't like to use players against, and I don't like to use players against the Cavs either, and I also prefer to use the Bucks at home. So, I think the Cavs are still playing defense at a pretty high level. I doubt I will have any Giannis, definitely not Giannis in cash at 10K or whatever he is.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, this game isn't super intriguing to me, mostly just because I think we mentioned last week that Cleveland's more interesting when one of the big 3 is out. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we saw LeBron go for he went for almost 70,
and Kyrie went for almost 8.
Yeah, exactly. So they're. When one of them's out, obviously the other, either the other 2 or the other one in the case of last game is more interesting. When they're all 3 here, they kind of vulture each other's ceilings. So, and then on Milwaukee side, it's just too bad of a matchup. Giannis going against LeBron. Even though I do think it may not be that bad of a matchup, just because they might play him even bigger than that, but Cleveland's defense is stingy, so I'm honestly not going to have too much exposure. It's kind of all tournament for me here.
Yeah, I mean, we have an 11-point spread, and we have a situation with all 3 of the Cavs' big 3 healthy. I really don't see a lot to get excited about.
Yep, I hear you. Okay, let's keep on moving then. Orlando at Detroit is the next game. 209 is the total. Detroit 7-point favorites. And only real injury news here is Vucevic is going to be out. So Orlando, Detroit, premier Eastern Conference matchup, battling for playoff spots and positioning. Who kind of interests you? Oladipo has just been crazy on a tear lately. Is he kind of still remaining a great play for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Detroit's defense is somewhat underrated. They've fallen off a bit lately, mostly I think at the 4 position they've really struggled, which would put Aaron Gordon at least on the radar for me. But yeah, you can't deny what Oladipo's been doing. I mean, I assume his price is way up, right? I mean, he has to be.
I mean, he's 7-7.
Right. I think on DraftKings, he's like on FanDuel, he's getting up like to the mid or high 8s. On DraftKings, at 7-7. I mean, that still makes a ton of sense. He hasn't played less than 39 minutes in any of his last 5 games. And we don't have to go to Wowie to pull up his usage rate
Right.
without Vooch on the floor. We know it's through the roof. So, yeah, I think that despite, a reasonably matchup that I think I don't love with KCP and Marcus Morris and those guys, I think Oladipo is at least worth considering.
No, I mean, I think he's a great play. Kind of, yeah, I get that. According to our opponent plus minus, it's about an average matchup. It's, I know a lot of people think that KCP is a really good defender, which I think he is individually, but with Oladipo probably playing a little more of kind of the point. I know that you're going to have Alfred and Brandon Jennings, playing, but Oladipo is kind of the playmaker. So, yeah, I'm not exactly, I'm not going to be off him just because of the matchup. And on DK, I think his price is definitely playable. He's just been really good lately. But yeah, it's kind of hard to find other than that. Orlando, is there anyone else? Maybe or Aaron Gordon. I think in tournament, his price is a little too high for me for to go casher tournaments really. And then the rest of the guys are all just kind of vulturing each other's minutes and upside.
Right.
Jennings and Alfred are kind of splitting time. Really, there's no one consistent other than Depot really.
Yeah, I mean, we know about Skiles by now, and Jennings started last game, played 17 minutes, and then Alfred came off the bench for 31. So,
yeah,
really have no idea. He's going 10 guys deep. 11 on some nights. So it's really hard to say about any other guys. And considering it's not any kind of matchup we love, I don't think that we have to really go anywhere else besides Depot.
Yep. I agree. Kind of interesting side from Detroit. These guys are all like fairly decently priced. I mean, the most expensive guy in this game is 7-7, which is Depot. Drummond's way down. Obviously, we've talked, how much his salary is up. So I think that he's really interesting, and especially in tournaments. I mean, especially not that Vooch was a great defender, but I mean, who on that team is going to stop Drummond? So he has potential rebound side. Upside. I know that he's not been playing well, so I can get not being on him in cash, even though I probably don't mind it. But I do think there's a lot of upside. Other than that, though, Detroit's interesting. I mean, there's not really any guys that have super safe floors or super high upside. So while this game sounds kind of interesting, I don't think there's really many guys for Detroit you want to play unless you want to buy into the Tobias revenge game.
Yeah, Tobias Revenge. I mean, I've been playing Tobias a decent amount in cash and more on FanDuel because obviously you have to roster, two small forwards and two power forwards. But yeah, I think Tobias is just like rock solid. And I've noticed that Marcus Morris has come through on a good play in the models a lot lately. I don't typically play Marcus Morris, but I'm sure he'll come through as good play again because his price just doesn't move even though he's playing 37 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, he's definitely a GPP option. He'll go off for 35, 38 points, and then he'll only have like 12. So obviously a great GPP option because he's boomer bust, but definitely I wouldn't look that way in cash. Cool. Let's keep on moving. Toronto, Boston's the next game we'll hit on, and let me pull up the line here. There is no line currently, probably because there's a lot of injuries. And I'm going to run through those real quick. Jay Crowder is still out. Looks like he's probably going to be out for another week or so. Jonas Valanciunas is questionable. Patrick Patterson is questionable. James Johnson is questionable. So pretty much the entire front court for Toronto is questionable outside of Biyombo. So, so I'll kind of kick to you. I'm not really sure where the line's going to be. I think it'll be I think it'll be kind of be in the middle of the slate. Not too high, not too low. It's at Boston. Toronto's the better team, but yeah. So any of these guys, stand out, or are they just kind of just both good defensive teams and maybe not the most interesting on a 12-game slate?
Yeah, well, we know about bigs against Boston. So I mean, if Jonas is out, let me see what Biyombo's price has gone to. I mean,
it's at 5.3 on DK.
Right. So, I mean, he's not the must play that he was before, but I still think he's at least in play. I mean, when these two teams met, I believe there was like Thursday or Friday of last week, Biyombo laid an egg on everybody. He was like 90% owned, and he quote unquote only had 24 0.7 DK points, but that's been like his absolute floor. I mean, he put 40 DraftKings points on Orlando and 52 on Indiana and 35 on Milwaukee. So
yeah,
I would not hesitate to go back to Biyombo even at 5.3K. I am a little
especially if those guys are out for sure.
Yeah, only if those guys are out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Raptors played 5 games last week, and I was surprised. They rested DeRozan in one of them. I was surprised that they let Kyle Lowry play in all of them, and he ended up being the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. I mean, just an unbelievable week for him. I guess I'm concerned that he might be tired, but he doesn't seem like it, and they will have had 2 rest days in between here. So, I'm never going to say don't play Kyle Lowry. A guy I've been playing a ton lately is Isaiah Thomas. Played him against the Sixers and then and against the Magic, but against the Raptors. I think what do our DVPs say for point guards against the Raptors? Because I typically don't play that spot.
Yeah, it's actually not that bad. It's opponent plus minus of plus 1.48. So I mean, it's not the best matchup on the board, but it's slightly above average, I would say. So nothing to, I think, run away from, even though I think individually, Lowry's a great defender, but I mean, I think that's probably maybe priced in a little bit. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. So yeah, I think Isaiah Thomas is playing at an unbelievable level right now. I mean, everything's going through him. So, and he's been really underpriced on DraftKings for like the last, I don't even know.
He's 7'6". They just don't budge his salary. I don't get why.
Right. So
he's put up almost 50 DK points the last couple, and it's getting consistent minutes, and they still won't budge him really.
Right. Yeah. So
definitely sure.
And Evan Turner is another guy that I've been playing a lot lately since the Crowder injury. Not, that first game when we saw him come off the bench, I think the Celtics realized that Marcus Smart at the 3 probably isn't going to work. And even if, they lose their second unit ball handler, Evan Turner has just been playing a ton of minutes because he still runs with that second unit. So a guy that can obviously rebound and assist really well, has a high floor. I think Evan Turner at 5.6 is going to be very popular with good reason.
Yep. No, I like that call for sure. A couple guys I'll mention real quick before we move on. DeMar DeRozan, obviously, I've kind of liked the idea of, targeting maybe what was initially a bad matchup, with Jay Crowder in. And we did this with PG, Paul George, when they play them. I think last week we talked about this. And the same sort of deal where a guy that, it looks like it's a bad matchup data-wise, but is actually not with Jay Crowder out. So I think DeMar has been playing well lately. And I think he's kind of a sneaky play. I don't mind him for sure. And then another guy that's not necessarily getting the minutes, but I think maybe could get a bump and has been playing well lately, Kelly Olynyk. He had 30 or 37 DraftKings points last game, was on fire from 3-point. I know it's a little points chasey, but for some reason, if all those guys for Toronto's out and really Biyombo is their only guy, I could see Brad Stevens going to a more kind of stretchy big. And letting Olynyk kind of put Biyombo in the pick and roll and try to move him away from the basket. Biyombo is obviously a great rim protector. I think if they play Patrick Patterson or some of these other guys that can stretch out with Olynyk, I would move off of him. But I could see Stevens doing something like that and playing him closer to 25 to 30, in which he's definitely GPP playable for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's been nights when Olynyk's played more than Sullinger by a significant margin the last week or so. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not cash playable, but kind of I guess maybe a bold call if you kind of want to get a guy at a ownership discount. Okay, let's keep on moving. New York and Chicago is the next game we'll hit on. No line here. Probably just because, it's another game with a bunch of injuries. Of note, Carmelo is going to play. He is in. He stated that he would play. Etwan Moore is out. Pau Gasol is probable. Lance Thomas is out. And Serafin is questionable. Big news on Serafin. So I'll kick to you. So, another kind of Eastern Conference, these Eastern Conference games between like teams that are out just right outside the playoffs or kind of right in or fairly brutal. But, can we get any fantasy value here? Right? You like any of these guys?
Yeah. I think I saw Cousins questionable. Did you mention that?
Who?
DeMarcus Cousins?
I'm talking about New York, Chicago.
Oh, New York, Chicago. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
he's questionable questionable though.
For the record, I did see DeMarcus Cousins questionable.
No, he is. Yeah, we'll get to him in a second.
Yeah, so with Carmelo back, I played Porzingis the last game with Carmelo out, which was okay, and I also played Aflalo with Carmelo out, which was an outright disaster. Like I was pretty sure that Aflalo had a bet on the Kings in that game. Like it looked like he was literally throwing the game. I was getting so tilted. Yeah, but with Carmelo back, like, and Jimmy Butler playing for the Bulls, like, I still think the Bulls are not a defense I necessarily avoid, but with Butler back and Powell presumably getting his minutes up in this game, I don't think they'll be one to pick on like they used to be for maybe a month or two stretch there. So I don't know. Like, I really don't see much on the Knicks side, do you?
I mean, I think Melo is okay for a tournament option. I agree that the Butler matchup, if that's going to be the matchup and Butler's going to be healthy and play him, I agree that it might take him out of cash. His price is reasonable though. I mean, you're getting Melo at 8.3 on DK, which is fairly nice. We don't know the line yet, so it's tough to kind of tell what sort of matchup. I would assume that a New York Chicago matchup is going to be great, as far as the Vegas line goes. But I don't mind Melo in tournaments. He's the only New York guy I'm interested in. I will say some Rolo exposure in tournaments is fine. He went for he's always like going to go off for 50 every once in a while. Like you never know. So if you want to roll that dice, that's fine. And then Chicago side, I think that you kind of have to look at Powell. Centers are just underpriced. It's something that we'll continue to beat the drum. He's just been crushing lately. He's been over 45 in the last three. He was in, almost at 70 in the two before that. He's at 7.6 going against, New York. Yeah, I mean, like, what more do you need, honestly? Powell seems like just a great play here.
Yeah, so I would say Powell had minutes limit last game, played 25 minutes and still had 14 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks, a steal, and 3 assists. Like, in 25 minutes. Like, Powell is – and that was against the Kings. Like, obviously, there's a more difficult matchup against the Knicks. But, I mean, if we know that Powell's minutes cap has been completely lifted, certainly agree with you. And a guy – I mean, Jimmy Butler played 35 minutes against the Kings and somehow only scored 11 real-life points. I mean, still had 8 assists, 5 steals, 3 rebounds. I mean, Jimmy Butler, to me, if he's playing 35 minutes or more, is definitely underpriced.
Yeah, 7.5. I agree. And then even though I can't believe I'm saying this, Derrick Rose is he's been a cash play for a while. It's not something that a lot of people want to admit, but he hasn't gone below like 27, kind of in that 30 range. Like you just kind of know what you're getting. So is he a value? No, but he's just kind of like really appropriately priced, and he's probably going to get right at 30 DK points. Which kind of I wouldn't play him in tournament, but I don't mind him in cash. Kind of quickly before we move on, any of these Chicago big guys, Taj, Mirotic, any of these guys that we might look?
Yeah, I mean, I had Taj in my lineup on, I think it was Monday, and then I yanked him when they said Powell was going to play, and then Taj still ended up having a good game. So, I don't hate it, but it's on such a big slate. I don't know if we have to go there.
Yeah, I think Powell's the play for sure. Okay, now let's move to Sacramento. Next game we'll hit on Sacramento at Minnesota. And this is a pretty good game, I think, to look at for sure. Total is huge. It's the second biggest of the night, just kind of right behind Clippers, Golden State, but with less defense for sure. Total is 223.5. Minnesota is 2.5-point favorites. And quickly, just some injury news. Boogie being DeMarcus Cousins is questionable. Willie Cauley-Stein is probable. Rondo is probable. Ben McLemore is questionable, but I would probably lean him more doubtful. So kind of definitely the Boogie news is going to shake things up for sure. So this game obviously I think is really juicy as far as some fantasy value. Cat is amazing. He crushed the Warriors, and that's no short feat. So, so how are you kind of approaching these games? I think just about a lot of these guys are interesting plays.
Yeah, I'm going to play everyone. Obviously, a lot depends on the Cousins situation.
Sure.
If Cousins is out, for sure, playing Rudy Gay. I know that Rudy's had his up and downs when Cousins has been out in the past, but like I'm willing to roll the dice there again. I just think that gets a significant enough bump statistically where eventually it's going to come through with that usage rate that he's going to have a really big game without DeMarcus Cousins. And yeah, I mean, if Willie Cauley-Stein is 100% and Cousins is out, I think we have to look there too. If Cousins plays, we certainly have to look there. And then on the other side, I mean, people want to play Klay Thompson. They want to play CJ McCollum. Like, I'm just happy playing Andrew Wiggins every night. People say he's not aggressive enough. I mean, maybe he does not look to attack enough, but he loves to jack shots. I mean, he gets the ball. He's not looking to pass. He's looking to jack, and I like that. And I love using wings against Sacramento. So I think Wiggins will end up as one of my favorite plays on the slate. And we saw Ricky Rubio, the way he's playing right now. We saw what he did to the Warriors. We've seen him destroying plus matchups before that. I mean, Ricky Rubio against – this has to be one of the best DVP spots, point guards against Sacramento. So certainly on Cat, Rubio, Wiggins, and Levine. I mean, just give me everybody in this game.
Yeah. Opponent plus minus point guards have beat their salary on DraftKings by almost 5 points a game on average.
Destroying,
just killing it. You're right. It is one of the best on the slate for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I can't disagree anywhere there. I guess I'll just kind of add in a little data tidbit. So when DeMarcus Cousins is out, we ran a trend of the day on this last time he was out when he got that suspension. A lot of people think that Rudy Gay is usually the beneficiary, but it's actually Koof. Koof has the biggest plus minus bump when he's out, and we kind of saw that last game that Boogie was out. Kufis went for 30 DK points, and he's min price. So I think.
How did I miss him? I love him.
Yeah. So I honestly am fine with Gay and Koof. If you want to go both, maybe mix up the exposure. But I think that he's kind of an easy cash play. Especially if you want to get some of the higher priced guys, whoever it may be in the 12-game slate. If Boogie's out, I think Koof is pretty easy playable at just 3K. He's min price.
Yeah. Oh, if Cousins is out, I think Koufis is probably should be the first guy in your lineup. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And I don't have much to add. I mean, I think all these guys are really good plays. In our models, everyone has an amazing opponent plus minus. So all the guys that you love to play in good matchups, usually you like to play, Sacramento in these high total games. Same with Minnesota, and they're playing each other. So load up. Next game we hit on is Utah at Houston, and the total we have here is 200. Which is a fairly interesting line. I guess Houston playing, faster pace, Utah playing slower pace, kind of meet in the middle here. Houston's 3.5-point favorites. They're at home, but they're on a back-to-back. Harden, there's no status here. He is kind of playing through an injury. I assume that he's going to play, but he is injured and kind of playing through it for, I guess, playoff seeding. In the back-to-back, so I would just kind of just monitor that, maybe how he's playing tonight and, whether he looks okay. But yeah, so this game is not super interesting to me just because of Houston being on a back-to-back and, the guys that we usually like on especially on Houston's side. It's just kind of a brutal matchup, just lower pace than they're used to, good defenders at the spots that we like. So, yeah, it's kind of a tough one for me to really get excited about in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be somewhat excited on the Utah side.
Sure.
I mentioned, I'm not going to play guys against the Jazz on a back-to-back most likely, but on the Utah side, mentioned the Wizards going to a playoff-style rotation. I mean, the Jazz are also fighting for the final playoff spot in the West, and we saw that last game, and when they played the Bucks, their starters each played at least 32 minutes, and Shelvin Mack got 38, Hayward got 36, Hood got 36, Gobert got 34. So the first thing I think of when teams play the Rockets is power forwards, and Derek Favors is going to be a really strong play. I used a lot of Ibaka in tournaments tonight against Houston. Hopefully that works out. But, I think Favors will be really interesting. I think Gordon Hayward will be interesting. has Shelvin Mack's price come up a lot?
So it's 6.3
Yeah.
on DK. So it's kind of incrementally gotten up. You know, it's
Right.
at 4.8.
So, I mean,
yeah.
he costs more than Reggie Jackson now, you know?
Yeah, but I still kind of like it.
Yeah. I mean, he costs more than Dragic. He costs more than Derrick Rose. He costs more than Ish. Like, I think I like Shelvin Mack. I think, he's a pretty good player, but I feel like, our profitability has kind of been sucked out a lot. I don't know. What do you think?
I still like him, honestly. I mean, if you kind of look at, how he's played, he hasn't been lower than 35. I mean, he's got a kind of a higher floor and higher ceiling than any of those guys we've talked about, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's getting Houston. Houston's not, notorious for being great defensively. Maybe they are a little bit better recently, but DVP says that it's not a terrible matchup. And you're getting him on back to back. Max playing pretty big minutes. He played 38 last game, like you said. I honestly don't mind him. He's going to rack up assists, especially if you and it's almost like the kind of the correlation play. Like if you like Favors and Hayward and Gobert as much as I think we both do like potentially in this spot, especially in GPPs, you kind of naturally have to like Mac because he's the one that's going to give him the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can dig that.
So, but yeah, I agree. Quick before we move on, Beasley, what are you doing with him?
Oh God, I don't know. Let's see what he does tonight.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, did they move up his price because he was probably like 50% or something tonight?
He's 49.
Yeah, so that's the same exact price as he was tonight. Yeah, I mean, I think it's too cheap for a guy that's coming in and taking 15 to 20 shots, but
his usage is like 38% or something.
Yeah, I mean, against the Jazz, and if he plays well tonight, I mean, I think he'd be a pretty interesting fade in tournaments.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's keep on moving. Miami at San Antonio is the next game we'll hit on. Total here is 196. Obviously, kind of the one that kind of sticks out as far as the really low. We have all the games, the lines that we currently have. We're missing two. All the lines are above 200, except for this one, which is 196. We kind of compare it to the Sacramento Minnesota game, which is 224-ish. LA and Golden State is way up there as well. So definitely a huge difference here. Miami is on a back-to-back and getting San Antonio at home, coming off a loss to the Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a great spot, I don't think.
Yeah, it's an awful spot. I mean, almost never use guys against San Antonio and try not to use guys against Miami. I mean, you don't see totals below 200 very often in the NBA anymore. So, yeah, you're probably not going to catch me with anybody in this game in my lineups. I really doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could potentially, go. I wouldn't touch anyone from Miami for sure, but I think you potentially go maybe Kawhi or Aldridge. I think I like Aldridge relative to his price a little more. I mean, I get the bad matchup, but if you're trying to go for an under-owned guy, maybe you get Miami on a back-to-back, and their Whiteside doesn't get a ton of minutes, and you kind of just get them not playing as well defensively, slacking or tired or something like that. And Aldridge has been zoned in. I mean, he deleted his Twitter account. So, I mean, what more do you need to know? And it played really well. He's coming off, really good performance against Golden State. Obviously kind of showed some critics that he would be unplayable in that series. So, yeah, I think I don't mind either of those guys in a tournament setting if you're kind of on a 12-game slate looking for some under-owned guys with still high ceilings. But 196 total, I don't think it's anything that like you set a lot of exposure to.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about. Look at those two, but that's about it. Next game we'll hit on and kind of get into the juicy ones. We got 4 more left. Philly at Denver. Total is 212.5. Denver is pretty big favorites here. 10.5 is the spread. Fareed is questionable. I would probably say that he's more doubtful, though. Covington is looking like he's going to play. He's probable. Rashawn Holmes is probable. Jakar Sampson is questionable, which could be disappointing because he might get a revenge game here, against the side. The Jakar Sampson revenge game. So, I mean, how are you treating this game? Obviously, two very bad teams playing against each other, and teams that are fairly high pace, especially playing in Denver. Value here anywhere?
Yeah, so I think that especially like Hollis Thompson to me has been a guy I've been using a decent amount while Covington has been out. I think it's
Hmm.
pretty easy to get off him with
Yeah.
Covington back, and Nerlens has been up and down, but
Hmm.
with Rashawn Holmes back, I feel like they want to limit the minutes of Nerlens anyways.
Yeah.
So Rashawn Holmes getting that big body back in there, like that would scare me about Noel also, and that would kind
Yeah.
of leave Noel as a tournament play too. So, I haven't been playing Ish, I haven't been playing Cannon. It's like they're getting healthier, and that scares me.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, I think Will Barton might end up as chalk in this game because
Yeah.
people are going to want exposure to the Sixers,
Hmm.
and people aren't going to want to mess with the bigs. I mean, maybe Jokic, but they're not going to. After everybody got burned by Terrell Arthur, they're not going to want to get burned by the bigs, and so they
Hmm.
look at the game log. And Will Barton had a great game last time out. Now he gets the Sixers, and Jakar is out again. So I hate playing Will Barton when he's the chalk, but he's at least in play.
Yeah, and you're right. If Jakar's out, he might just. I don't think it's like a huge bump for Barton, but just a couple extra minutes here or there. And against Philly, I mean, just those are valuable extra minutes. So yeah, no, I agree that Barton's kind of the play. It's actually, I kind of set it up to be a game that we're potentially interested in. Um, but you're right. I mean, it's a game that it seems like a good one to go, but then you kind of look through the players, and there's no one really to get excited about.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of tournament only, and even the guys that you're looking at are not like great tournament plays on the 12 game slate. But yeah, I mean, just kind of pick your darts, and hopefully they work out. Hollis has been great. If you kind of look at his game log, he's been crushing his value. But with Covington back, you're right. Yeah, it's kind of hard. So maybe just kind of pick some guys who you think could, go off in the tournament, whether it's Ish or whether it's Barton or
Yeah.
maybe Nerlens kind of breaks out against. I don't know. I don't love the Nerlens play, but I think maybe just if you're trying to find lightning here.
Yeah, no, I think one tournament play is Jokic because although I wouldn't expect him to play more than 25 minutes, like he could easily do 1.3, 1.4 DK points per minute
Yeah,
against the Sixers. So, yeah, I think Jokic would be a guy I would be interested in tournaments.
yeah. And one guy I will throw out is Nurkic. Um, I get it's a little points, JC. He played 26 minutes against Cleveland, had 30 DK points. I don't know what his minutes are going to be, so like don't play him in cash. But it's just really hard to know Malone's rotation, really, especially with the bigs. But maybe have mostly Jokic, but maybe have if you're going to throw out a bunch of lineups, one or two with Nurkic just in case he kind of gets that 26 to 28 minutes again and goes off in a pretty good matchup. Yeah, okay, let's keep on moving. Dallas Portland is the next game we'll hit on. Total's 214.5. Portland is 6.5 point favorites here. Of note, Chandler Parsons is out, and it looks like he's probably going to be out for the season. So that's not good news for Dallas, but obviously important for this game for sure. Alan Crabb is probable on Portland's side, and additionally on Portland's side, Myers Leonard is ruled out already. So yeah, so a fairly interesting game. 214.5 is a pretty good total for a Dallas game, honestly. Portland's pretty decent favorites. I assume maybe Chandler's got a little bit to say about that, but where are you looking in this game? Dirk obviously has just been on fire lately.
Yeah. I mean, Dirk's out of control. I'm always lost with Dallas.
Yeah,
I never feel good about playing any of their guys. I mean, they just went. I mean, Darren Williams and Dirk just went completely ham. But I don't even know like what happened. Like, why did Zaza only play 5 minutes? Why didn't Sasha Merji play 33?
great pronunciation.
I mean, I really, really like. I'm gonna have to look into this Maverick situation with
Yeah.
papers and stuff tomorrow before I make any firm plays. But it's really hard to ignore the way Dirk has been playing, and I
Mhm.
would also want to look at the usage without Parsons on the floor. But like Dirk's played 35, 33, 39 minutes the last 3 games. Like, I don't know, can he keep this up? I guess would be my question. But he's kind of been doing it all month, so.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, he's 37 years old, and he's who knows how old he actually is. So
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's hard to get off the train. I mean, he's just been so good lately, and it's not like he's like super expensive that you have to worry about. He's only 7-1
mhm.
in a plus matchup here against Portland, and in a good total game. So if there was ever a spot to fade, it's kind of like it's like I agree. It's kind of like I'm looking to fade Dirk here because I want to get off the public. Obviously, it's always a good thing to do in a zero-sum game, but this is a hard game to do it. So I don't mind going back to the Dirk well. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to figure out, where the Dallas projections are going to go. Yeah, Salah Mejri played, 33 minutes, the other night against same sort of matchup against Portland, had 47 DK points, double off the bench. Zaza got the start, but he ended up playing most of the minutes. So I would definitely kind of keep up with our models. Justin and those guys are really good at getting the projections right and kind of monitoring what the coaches say, and kind of what we expect to be the minute breakdown. So definitely monitor that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because there is obviously a lot of usage in minutes to go around. I think some of it will go to Dirk and he'll continue to be a good play. But I do think that some of these other guys are going to be good plays as well. So
Yeah. I mean, I'd want to look at Wes Matthews, how he performs without Parsons on the floor, because revenge spot, and obviously he only had 15, 5, and 3 when these two teams played on Sunday, but at his cost, which I'm not sure what it is, but I'm pretty sure that he doesn't need a lot to get there. So yeah, he is 4,200. So yeah, I think Wes Matthews is somewhat intriguing.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, the Dallas is just something to be kind of monitor as time goes on. Portland side, yeah, I mean, it's a fairly good spot. They're favored. Obviously, Dallas isn't super stingy on defense. So Lillard, McCollum, you interested in them?
Yeah, I mean, why not? The thing
Yeah,
for me with Lillard, like I probably don't play Lillard enough, but when I can go 500 more to Wall and 600 more to Chris Paul, that's like why I end up never playing Lillard, and I can go down 800 to Kyle Lowry. So I don't
yeah.
know. Like I end up
And
not
he's
playing
always
Lillard
in,
enough.
yeah.
Probably a mistake.
Yeah, no, he's always kind of in that range. Yeah, you're right, where you kind of talk yourself into some of the other guys,
Yeah.
either just right below him or above him. But I mean, he's great. He's got a really high floor, really high usage. I don't mind him in cash for sure.
Yeah.
That's where you
He
end up.
just takes so many shots. I mean, that's why
Yep.
he's safe. I mean, he just jacks and jacks and jacks the whole game.
Yeah, and his upside, especially on DK, where you get 3-point bonus. He's a great shooter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep on moving. We only got 2 more games. Lakers at Phoenix is the next game we'll hit on. Surprisingly, not a huge total here. 210 for 2 really bad defensively teams, and the spread's not too high. Phoenix is 4.5-point favorites, which I'm not sure if that says more about Phoenix or it says more about the Lakers or just kind of both. Some injury news: Tyson Chandler's questionable. Larry Nance is going to play. He's out tonight. But he's going to be back tomorrow, which kind of hints at the fact that the Lakers are on a back-to-back, so that's kind of important. And they're obviously back-to-back on the road. Yeah, so how are you treating this game? The line honestly surprised me a little bit. I thought the total might be a little bit higher than this.
Yeah, I mean, when these two teams met 2 games ago, I was like all in on Brandon Knight, and that worked out pretty well. I mean, point guards against the Lakers is something I like to do, and I think
Right.
Brandon Knight is just taking so many shots. I mean, he just like came off the injury list firing,
Yeah.
taking at least 16 shots in 5 straight games. And for somebody that costs 7,300, I mean, that's a ton of shots,
He's
especially
not shooting well, but he is shooting.
right. And that's one of the things like I look at. Like, I don't care if guys miss shots or turn the ball over or whatever. Like, at least there's balls in their hands and they're getting opportunity. I know you looked at that true usage stuff, which is probably a debate for another show, but like, I don't mind if guys miss shots because at least it gives them that ceiling. Like, if Brandon Knight were to get hot in this game against the Lakers, which he certainly could, like, he would just completely smash. So
Sure.
I like Brandon Knight a lot.
Yeah, no, I like him too for sure. Yeah, I think it's maybe just more interesting. I think when you're kind of getting to the true usage stuff, it's just kind of a nuance of cash versus GPP. I think that maybe it lends itself to saying that Knight's a really, really good tournament play because, if all of a sudden he does, not turn the ball over and, if the ball goes in, then you're right. He's going to crush, for 50 or 60. But maybe, at 7-3 because of the fact that he, has such negative, he's missing shots and turning the ball over, such negative usage. Maybe you go somewhere else in cash. I think maybe that's where the use of that stat is. But I agree. I mean, usage in general is positive just because those are guys that are going to get opportunities. So I don't mind that call at all for sure. Interesting note, Byron Scott has, come out recently and said that he's going to play the young guys a lot, which is obviously good for the Lakers long term, I think, outside of fantasy, but also, good for us that he at least gives them the stamp of approval. Unfortunately, these guys haven't been playing super well lately. Obviously, a good matchup against Phoenix, but how do you kind of juggle that? Not playing well, but obviously Phoenix is not very good defensively here.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens tonight. I mean, Byron Scott claims he's going to and he's referring, when he says young guys, I think he's referring to D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, and Julius Randle. Yeah. And I assume that this means they're going to play at least 30 minutes tonight against Memphis. So we'll see. I mean, if it's true and Kobe sits out tomorrow, which I think is a reasonable bet for him to sit out. And I've seen Byron Scott say he wants to start Larry Nance at the 3, and that would create, I think, a lot of opportunity for Clarkson and Russell, who have kind of fallen off the radar given the way they've been treated lately. So I think, guards against Phoenix is just like a gold mine over the last couple months, and I'll probably be on that, assuming tonight goes according to plan. Tonight being, we keep saying tonight. Tonight is Tuesday night, and when we say tomorrow, we're referring to Wednesday. But you guys, I don't want to confuse anybody. Obviously, tomorrow is tonight, etc.
Yeah, no, you're right about it being a gold mine. The highest opponent plus minus or true DVP is D'Angelo Russell, plus 6.59. Phoenix is the worst DVP. They're the worst team to D'Angelo Russell. He kind of splits point guard and shooting guard. And that's kind of the cool thing about our opponent plus minus is we adjust for those position splits. But yeah, I mean, he plays a lot of point guard, plays a little off ball sometimes with Clarkson, but amazing matchup. So I think Jello is definitely a great play. One guy I really like actually in tournaments is Booker. He kind of crushed it for a little while there. Had a couple down games recently, but you kind of look through his down games. They were against Utah and Memphis, so I think that's understandable. Tony Allen and then Utah, obviously, just kind of slow pace. And for a guy who's still like 14 years old, I think you can forgive that. So I think he's obviously Lakers defense kind of cures all ails. I like him in tournaments a lot.
Agreed.
For sure.
Yep. Agreed.
Cool. All right, let's move on, and we'll hit the last game before we run through positions. And this is the great one here. LA, the other LA team, the Clippers versus Golden State, is the last game of the night. Total huge. It's 225.5, which is the biggest of the night. Golden State is 10-point favorites. News here is Bogut is questionable. Really no news on that. He's just been questionable for the last couple of games and hasn't ended up playing. So I would probably list him as more doubtful because we've kind of got no status update here. And really kind of the same thing with a lot of these guys. No update on Iggy, no update on Ezeli. So they could play, but it kind of, the fact that no news, I think means that they're probably not looking to play tomorrow. And then on the Clipper side, Jeff Green has been cleared to play. So kind of the same old stuff that we were kind of expecting here. So, so how are you approaching this game? Golden State obviously, had a tough loss against San Antonio, and even didn't look great against Minnesota last night. But they're back at Oracle in a game that I think they really want. They're going for 73, going for, obviously have to worry about that home seed in the playoffs. It seems like a spot where they're really going to zone in for me.
Yeah, it's weird to say, but like similar to the teams that are going for the playoffs, like that's how hard the Warriors are going after this record, if not harder. So, I mean, you have no minute concerns whatsoever. The only minute concerns you have when you play Golden State guys is blowout. And I don't know. I mean, the Clippers have been off since Sunday or Saturday, I believe, and that's a long layoff for them, which should help Chris Paul. And this is just completely anecdotal. It's probably wrong, but it feels to me like Chris Paul is more aggressive in big games, like takes more field goal attempts, whereas in other games maybe he tries to get his teammates involved, et cetera, et cetera. So that might be flawed thinking, but I think I prefer Paul over John Wall in this spot, just in terms of a raw projection.
That's an interesting one. Actually, I think that might be an interesting trend that we could run tomorrow. We could see Chris Paul against teams that have a winning percentage of, whatever, or higher, and kind of see if he ramps up his performance against the better team. So that is an interesting question. I will say that his spot is really good. Golden State's a pretty good defensive team, but not a point guard. He is an opponent plus minus of plus 4.04. For whatever reason, whether you want to chalk it up to Steph Curry or whatever the reason may be, Golden State hemorrhages points against point guards. I really like Chris Paul, and we can kind of run through that. Before we get to that sort of position rundown, so how do you feel? Chris Paul is at 9.7, John Wall is at 9.6, Lillard's at 9.1. How would you kind of look at those guys?
Probably in that order. I mean, I think it's super close between Wall and Paul, but I think just better game environment for Chris Paul. And we saw what Ricky Rubio was just able to do to Steph Curry, and I think that was somewhat predictable. And I think Paul is somewhat predictable tonight.
Yeah, and how would you add Steph? He's at 10.5. He's been struggling a little bit lately. Had a really tough game against San Antonio. Bounced back, obviously, against Minnesota, which isn't saying a whole lot. But, even still, he only had 19 points. He ended up with, over 50 DK points because of, his peripheral stats. But this seems like a game where maybe he could just score a ton, hit like 8 threes and go off. So how would you kind of throw him in that point guard mix? I really love him in tournaments, but would you rather lean those other guys in cash?
I don't know. That's really tough. I mean, I think it would come down to I would kind of build the rest of my roster first and see what I had in terms of salary. Like I'm fine with any of those point guards. I would be curious about – I mean, Steph and Chris Paul have played each other so many times. I'd be curious about how Steph has fared against him because Chris Paul has a reputation of a good point guard defender. I'm not sure how necessarily realistic that is.
Yeah, kind of looking at he's his DVP, Steph Curry's DVP, our opponent plus minus is about average. So so I don't think it's anything to be scared about necessarily, but probably worth the trend as well. So I think you're right. It is kind of interesting that LA's had this break, so you could potentially look at these guys. Jeff Green is back, which kind of kills, I think, maybe some value for like Jamal Crawford and kind of the lower end guys that you might look in kind of a high total game. I think this is the game to kind of look at the studs. Get some Steph, get some Chris Paul. Do you want some Dre and Clay? Clay is 6'7". On DK. Obviously hasn't been playing that well, but we know Clay has elite upside, so maybe some tournaments for him. I played Clay against the Wolves the other night, and I immediately regretted and wish I played Wiggins instead. Yeah.
And Wiggins is 300 cheaper in this slate. I mean, Wiggins I think has the better matchup with Sacramento. I mean, I know Clay is certainly the bigger name and maybe has a higher ceiling because he scored 40 points in a quarter one time. But
right now, you like Wiggins.
I like Wiggins better, yeah.
I hear you. Okay, cool. Any last thoughts? Or you want to move to positions, quick hits?
No, let's do it.
Cool. All right. I will run through point guards, small forwards, and centers, and then I'll let you kind of run through the shooting guards and power forwards. And we'll kind of hit on the ones that we think are important for tomorrow. So starting with point guards, obviously, we kind of just mentioned this in the last game. Some studs at the top. You got Steph at 10.5, Chris Paul at 9.7, Wall at 9.6, Lillard at 9.1. And even going to go down to Lowry at 8.3. I think they're all playable. I think they're all in pretty decent matchups and all playable in cash. I think we kind of like maybe the Paul Wall range, which is kind of the mid nines. I think those are maybe the best mixture of salary plus matchup. But I think you can go either one. We mentioned maybe fill out the rest of your cash lineup and kind of see where you end up, and then kind of move on from there. But I definitely really, really like Chris Paul, and I think John Wall is a great play as well. but definitely have some exposure to all of those guys in tournaments if you're kind of a multi-entry guy. Rajon Rondo, I think you have to have some exposure, kind of moving down in tournaments, mostly just because of just the high total of that Sacramento Minnesota game. Isaiah, I think we both love. He's been playing really well. Toronto is kind of a matchup that we think is bad, but opponent plus minus said that it's not nearly as bad. So I can get, not going in cash because you can just pay up just a little bit more for these elite guys. But in tournaments, if you just want some unique exposure, or maybe even go 2-point guards, some Isaiah is not a bad idea. Brandon Knight, I think we like in tournaments, upside. I think shooting a lot, has a high usage, and he's getting the Lakers. Definitely a good spot. Rubio is kind of the same spot as Rondo, just cheaper. He's in this great total game. He's getting Sacramento. We know his ceiling, so definitely roll him out in tournaments. D'Angelo Russell has the best matchup on the board data-wise. He gets Phoenix. He's at 6'4", and Byron kind of gave him the stamp of approval. He's going to play, so I don't mind him. Shelvin Mack, we kind of disagreed with a little bit. I actually really like him and don't mind him in cash. I think maybe you're a little more hesitant, which I respect, but I definitely think he's kind of a guy that maybe you want to kind of look at the data yourself and decide on. And then kind of going down, it's hard to get excited about a lot of these other guys. You could go Rose, I think, is okay in cash, but I would rather pay up $300 for Mac. Ish is okay in tournaments. T, we talked about these guys maybe a little more interesting in a smaller slate, but the bigger slate with these stud point guards, it's kind of hard to not pay for one of them. And kind of just going down, I'm not really seeing anyone in kind of the lower range that is super interesting to me. So I think this is kind of definitely a night to pay up for shooting guard, whether you're going one or two of them. But I would definitely get one of these top guys in your cash games for sure. And that's it for point guard. I'll kick to you for shooting guard.
All right, yeah. We will see what the health situation is with James Harden, but either way, I doubt that I will use him playing Utah on a back-to-back. So then next guy I go down to at shooting guard is all the way down at 77, and that's Victor Oladipo, who without Nick Vucevic on the floor has been pretty dominant. So his price has not gotten away from us yet, even at 7.7. Like him, always like DeMar DeRozan, and maybe they give Kyle Lowry a rest at some point here. I don't know if it'll be Wednesday night, but anytime they do give Kyle Lowry rest, I certainly want to play DeRozan. And even if Lowry plays, I think DeRozan is typically fine. Jimmy Butler is a guy who I think is really sneaky at 7.5K because he's back to playing 35 minutes, and maybe he's not 100% yet on that knee, but if he's anywhere near it, he's going to meet value at 7.5. Like, he just does too much not to, and he has a pretty big ceiling. Devin Booker at 6.6 is facing the Lakers. I don't think we need to talk any more about that. He's certainly a fine play. One of my favorite plays is Andrew Wiggins at 6.4. Just very aggressive in terms of shooting the basketball lately. And one of my favorite matchups on the board is Wings against Sacramento. So certainly Wiggins at 6.4, certainly Zach LaVine at 6 flat. Evan Turner as a first unit kind of rebounder and facilitator, and then also playing with the second unit while Jay Crowder is out. Just a big role for 5.6K. And then right there, I think I prefer Evan Turner to Will Barton, even though Will Barton is might be more – I don't know. I feel like Will Barton's going to be very popular because he's playing the Sixers and because coming off of a big game. I prefer not to use Will Barton when he is the chalk. Bradley Beal at 5.4. I think is really interesting because Randy Whitman has gone to this playoff rotation that has seen him extend the minutes of all of his best players, and that certainly includes Brad Beal, who saw 34 minutes last game. I mean, at 5.4K, it's just too cheap. And, I'm not on Hollis Thompson anymore with Covington back, and I think JJ Redick, we didn't mention in the main pod. I think he's a little bit less interesting with Jeff Green coming back, but JJ Redick is going to score points in the first quarter, and then after that, it's all gravy.
Yep. And on DK, we 3-point bonus. Yeah, definitely has some upside there. Cool. I'll take it for small forward, which is a little tough tomorrow. We have Giannis and LeBron. You kind of talked about the fact that Giannis is higher in salary than LeBron here. He's at 9.5, LeBron's at 9.4. And it's kind of tough to tell where the chalk is going to be. I think if Boogie, DeMarcus Cousins plays, which kind of takes a lot of the value out of potential Rudy Gay chalk situation. I think LeBron's going to end up being the chalky play just kind of by default, just because there's not really many great plays on small forward, and people are just going to kind of take the safety of LeBron, which I get. So I don't mind that. Giannis, I think, is a tournament only just because of the matchup. It's really tough. The opponent plus minus wise, small forwards and kind of Giannis in particular, even with his position splits, is not a great one against Cleveland and their defense. Melo, I think, is okay. In the Chicago game, this is not a great total that we would expect, but I don't mind him if you end up with him at cash and or if you have to play him or whatever. I don't mind him for sure. I think Kawhi is a really interesting tournament play. We talked about this game is brutal. Miami at San Antonio. Miami's coming off a back-to-back. San Antonio coming off this loss at Charlotte, coming back home. But I think Kawhi and Aldridge both on the San Antonio side. I know Aldridge isn't a small forward, but both those guys I think are interesting tournament plays in a kind of a brutal game. Gordon Hayward is a tournament play for me. Getting Houston on the back-to-back, playing a little bit up in pace, because they're playing Houston. So at 6'9", I definitely think that his salary is good, and the matchup against wings on Houston is obviously one of the better ones in the league. So I think Gordon is definitely fine. He's struggled a little bit, so I can understand if you kind of want to maybe put him more tournament than cash, but definitely you should have some exposure. Tobias is interesting. You got the revenge game. Not an amazing matchup, and he hasn't been playing amazing either, but he's probably appropriately priced, so it's kind of hard to figure out what you want to do with him. Maybe some tournament exposure. Hard to get excited about him in cash, but I don't mind some Tobias here or there if you're kind of just mixing in a bunch of lineups. Rudy Gay, I think the question is whether Boogie is going to play. If Boogie's out, I think Rudy Gay is obviously a great play. He's going to get a bump in usage, especially in a game in Minnesota where there's a high total. If DeMarcus Cousins doesn't play, obviously that hurts a lot of his value. I don't think he's unplayable because the matchup is still good, and people are going to probably go the other side, and he's probably going to be underowned as a result. But obviously monitor the Boogie situation there, and then kind of going down. There's not much. We talked about potentially Marcus Morris is an interesting tournament play, very boomer bust. I think if you kind of want to get a lower guy in cash. That's not necessarily at the top like LeBron or Gordon Hayward or whoever. I think Otto Porter's your guy at 5'1". He's been playing really high minutes. They're playing in their kind of playoff rotation. He played 38 minutes last game. He's at 5'1". I think he's your bet kind of is the middle to lower end guy if you want to go cash and kind of not pay a whole lot of at small forward and kind of get these high price point guards. Other than that, really the only other guy that I think I even would play below him, and not a guy that we mentioned in our breakdown, but I actually kind of like in tournaments, is Omer Caspi, especially if Boogie's out. I think a lot of people are going to move to Gay, but Caspi's also going to get a bump, and he's not going to get the ownership bump that Gay gets. So I think Caspi's kind of a sneaky tournament play, would play some high minutes especially if they move Gay to the 4 and let Caspi play a little at the small forward spot. So I like that a little bit as well. But overall, small forward is fairly tough. So I think it's kind of maybe get up for those top guys or go Porter. And I think I'll probably go Porter more often than not. So I'll kick to you for power forward.
Yeah, I think the Caspi call is interesting, especially if Cousins is out. I mean, I think they've shown a willingness to play Caspi at the 4 also. So
yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, so at power forward, obviously on DraftKings, Cousins is a power forward, will be one of the best plays on the board, or at least one of the best raw plays on the board if he's able to go. Other than that, I think power forward is probably the position where I wrote down the least amount of guys that are in play for me. I think Draymond, anytime he's under 8K, interests me in a game with a total above 220, around 225. I think from a DVP perspective, I mean, all of these sharp people that are really into DVP will be on Derek Favors because power forwards against the Rockets is one of the best possible spots. Dirk Nowitzki has had a month like I never thought he'd be capable of ever again. I mean, at 37 years old, he literally looks like he's like 25. I mean, just on an unbelievable tear. I don't know when the other shoe drops because it will.
Mhm.
I'm just not sure when it'll be, and it's hard not to have some Dirk at least at 7.1. With Rashawn Holmes back, I'm a little scared about Nerlens' minutes, but he certainly has a monstrous upside and ceiling against a Denver team that often struggles to contain front court players. So, Nerlens, I'm probably not going to play in cash with Rashawn Holmes back and Jeremy Grant playing and Landry and Brand all there. But I think Noel is at least interesting for tournaments. Gorgie Dang in that game against Sacramento. I mean, I think I've mentioned everybody on Sacramento and in Minnesota. I'm certainly not excluding Gorgie Dang, who didn't have a very good game, got into some foul trouble against the Warriors, but is still a really good play. And then, Aaron Gordon, if I'm going to play guys or if I'm going to look to exploit Detroit, it's often with the power forward position, and Aaron Gordon is way down at 5.4K because his minutes have been jerked around by Scott Skiles. But if he were to play 30 to 35 minutes in this game against Detroit, I think Aaron Gordon would perform very well.
Cool. I will finish up with centers, which is actually pretty interesting. Centers I think are always interesting on DK especially, but I think it could be a night where you go double center in cash. Towns I think is definitely playable. I don't mind him in either format. I think there's probably some better value, just kind of speaking values, projected plus minus or whatever, however you wanted to find it. But he obviously has a lot of upside in a really good matchup, especially if Boogie's out and he doesn't have to worry about foul trouble. I think Towns is probably matchup proof anyway, which is kind of scary, the fact that he's 19 and matchup proof. But I think he's definitely playable. Whiteside, I'm not super on against San Antonio, just kind of a brutal spot back-to-back at San Antonio. DeAndre, not a great matchup here. I don't mind some tournaments because he's cheap on DK, but I'm not really going to have a whole lot of exposure to him. Pau Gasol, I really want to have in my cash games. He's 7-6, been crushing it lately. Not a matchup I'm scared off of. So he is definitely a guy that I am really hard looking at. The question is obviously going to be, if Boogie doesn't play, we'll get to a guy who's going to be a potential, chalky punt, and even a guy maybe a little bit lower who could be a punt in kind of that mid-range. So the question is going to be, you can only get two, where do you go? But we'll get to those in a second. I think Drummond is a nice tournament play. His salary is way down from, the 10K-ish range where he's been at times this year. So not playing against Vooch, kind of playing against a smaller Orlando front court. I think he has some rebounding upside. You get the double-double on DraftKings, so I do think there's upside there at 7-6. Al Horford's been crushing it lately. I wouldn't roll him in cash because I think there's better options here for sure at center, but I don't mind him in tournaments if you go double and just kind of want to get a unique guy at center. Gortat, I think, is fine in tournaments. Same with Gobert, kind of in that mid to Sixers range. And then kind of going down, I think the guy that I hinted at earlier is Biyombo. If all these guys, Valanciunas is out, Patrick Patterson is or all these guys are questionable. Sorry, Valanciunas is questionable, Patrick Patterson is questionable. You have all these guys who can potentially be out, and if so, Biyombo is going to be really hard to get. We like to target, big guys against Boston. If Biyombo is the only big guy really they have available at 5'3", even with the increased salary, I think that he's going to be really, really hard not to play in cash. So I really love Powell. I really love Biyombo as cash plays if those guys are out. And then kind of going down, I don't mind Olynyk in tournaments, but really the guy that we're going to want to talk about is Kuf. Kosta Koufis, he's min price. He's 3K on DK. If Boogie doesn't play, he has the highest plus minus when Boogie's out. We ran a trend of the day on that a couple weeks ago. So I think he's a no-brainer chalk play. But the question is, if all those guys for Toronto end up being out, and Biyombo's kind of a chalk play, if Boogie's out and you have Kuf, and then I really love Powell, just his spot and his salary. So you can obviously only get two of them, so you might have to make a tough call. But I think all three of those guys are definitely guys you definitely really, really want to look at, especially if the injuries take out as such. So that's it. Any last thoughts, Adam?
No, I mean, it's a big slate. I think something to really be aware of on a big slate is I don't worry about ownership as much on a big slate if I'm playing GPPs, and I'm much, much, much more likely to put my cash lineup into GPPs because it's just not people on a 12-game slate. I'd be shocked if somebody had the same cash lineup as me. So yeah, I think that 12-game slates are always a lot of fun, and it can be overwhelming, but I think it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I agree. Sounds great. We'll end it there. Thanks for listening. Adam, thanks for joining me. I got to run and do a PGA pod now. So, yeah, we'll end it there. But thanks for listening. Adam, thanks for joining us. And good luck tomorrow. I guess we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, enjoy the golf.
Cool. All right. See you guys.